Okay, now I'm alive.
Okay, that was incredible. I could hear the broadcast back into my headset here, but we're here. How you doing tonight, brother? How you doing?
Doing good. Communications issues, of course. This is ridiculous.
Well,
It
okay,
really is.
when you're getting,
You know what I mean?
what do you mean by communication?
Well, first of all, when I have a cell phone, right, I have to get cell phone swept. They have to go through a process. So how in the world can anything affect the cell phone? That's ridiculous. Well,
Uh,
not this cell phone anyway.
well, yeah. Don't you have certain protections on yours?
Oh well, yeah, I have to. So they
Right.
have to be swept and cleaned and all that good stuff.
Scrubbed?
But
Did they scrub it like Hillary? Remember when Hillary scrubbed
oh
the?
yeah, they that's part of the sweep uh, protocol.
Oh
But they
man.
do a good job.
Okay.
But as of late, it just falls apart.
Mike, can you? I'm the average citizen. Okay, so do you think they listen to what I'm doing in my life when I'm not even out on the air? It,
Of course, of course they do. Yeah, but you know what? You know what? Speaking of privacy,
right.
things like that. Now we know we don't have privacy, but I don't mind what they hear.
No.
I don't mind that. I do mind what the Lord hears, not them.
Amen.
They
There
can
you
hear if
go.
they hear me, if they hear my private conversations, it's going to be just like they're listening to me on the air or something,
Right.
or you and I talking.
I
So
know it.
they're going
I
to
know.
get the same
You're gonna
thing.
get. They're
They're
gonna
probably
get.
bored with me.
they're gonna get the same message, whether we're plugged in or not. Because
Yeah,
look, the Lord is listening to us. That's the one that I'm worried about listening. Okay, I want to make sure what I'm
absolutely.
talking about and doing is pleasing to Him. I'm not worried about AI figuring it out. I mean, that's the vice president today, Kamala Harris. She's very nervous. She said that AI may have could invade our privacy.
Oh boy. Well, that was one of those I'm trying to stay relevant comments. Is
Well,
she?
it's
Was
not
she?
working. Okay.
It's that's just not a. What kind of statement is that? I think they're shocked. I think they're shocked to know. It's almost like they've been sleeping
Yeah.
for a few years and they woke up and
Right.
AI is out there. But yeah, I think that kind of caught her off guard. They
Amen.
understand we don't have privacy. They
Right.
understand that.
Come
They're
on.
trying to it's election year and they're trying to
Look relevant.
appeal to their constituents.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Speaking of constituents, let me. I'm going to talk to you about Russia and a lot of things tonight. But King Charles III
Yeah,
has, Saturday he's going to be his coronation is going to take place,
yeah.
but he has released his statement that all subjects, all citizens of the UK, or all citizens of the British Empire must swear their allegiance to King Charles III and his um, successors to come. Is this? They're saying that never before has a king or queen ever said they must swear an allegiance to them. Is there something there? Or is he just is it just semantics, or is there something he's
Oh no, no, there's something there. He's a king. It's the first time they've had a king in a long time. Actually, it's the first time the system has had an appointed king in a long time, and they're going all in. They have the bloodline sealed now, so
right?
it's a lot of ritualistic things that go behind that. And this guy is in support of Baal, of um, um, all sorts of deities.
Baal. Did
He's
you say
really into that.
Baal?
Yeah, he has a belief or an ideology with the rest of them that the people of Earth have already been. Well, there's a special group coming, a special group of people that will. And when I say coming, I mean they'll
Come into
come
power?
into who they are, right?
Okay. Okay.
And what they will do is they're going to be the mediator between an ancient deity, right, and everybody else. They're
Wow.
they're all they're all women. They are. They're all women,
What?
and they will be used for that specific purpose. So he's going to be he's going to oversee this. He will.
He's going to oversee a large amount of women.
They're
People
mediators between humanity,
and
leadership, and Baal. Or
And
you might
Baal.
want to, all these, Baal has what, 9, 10, 13 names. So any one of
Yeah.
those you can pick. In other words, it's a beast. He's the one that's going to, this thing that's coming will be the only one that subdues the bull, right?
Right.
And if you look carefully, everything is lining up to it. Everything is financially, worldwide, alliances, right? Everything is lining up to it. And so he's one more component in what the Bible has already given us, about this thing coming forward. And we're about to see it. Things coming a bit sooner than I believe anybody calculated.
Right. So he is going to. He's not just the king of the United Kingdom. He's taken a position that's elevated higher than most world leaders, and is going to be raising up a group of women liaisons between humanity and Baal worship.
Yes, that's already in progress.
That's
New York,
huge.
California, Texas, it's all over the place. And in all countries, just about except for the Arabic. Well, no, I can't say that because Saudi Arabia has also been inclusive of that same thing.
This is incredible information, Mike. I mean,
Yeah, when they build when Saudi Arabia finishes their cube city, which will be, everybody will start seeing this thing in December, November. It's a huge cube city. They are dumping money into this thing. It's going to become one of the number one spots for people to go and to do whatever in this closed ecosystem right in the middle of the desert, right? They're also going to lead the world in crops. Do you know that? Saudi Arabia.
what?
Yeah, while we're over
Crops.
here fighting each other, right? They
Yeah.
have done the unthinkable. They are doing what is impossible. These guys are expanding. They have crops that are coming up all over the place from real satellite imagery. Saudi Arabia is beginning to look green, right? It's almost like they're replicating exactly what Israel is naturally blessed with, but they're doing it over there on a big scale. And remember, Saudi Arabia, you just can't go into Saudi Arabia and start, driving around the desert because they closed the desert off for some time. So now they're setting up it's a huge empire being set up in Saudi Arabia. So much so that now Syria is about to be included back into the Arab League.
Yeah, I see that. Is that what that meeting was with Turkey, Russia, Iran,
That
and
was part of it.
Syria?
That was part of it.
Okay.
Iran, there's an active threat right now, right? There was with Greece right before Iran attacked one of their tankers. There's one right now. The UK, those places around there. King Charles will likely provoke the entirety of the Islamic kingdoms. Right now, he's not supposed to do that, but I don't think he can maintain himself to that point where he won't do it. So when he does this, he's going to bring down some pressure upon that entire province. That's coming also. But everything is lining up. It's lining up perfectly, and it goes right into the financial systems. Why
Okay.
all of a sudden does King Charles have his coronation, and then banks are failing, not
Yeah.
only in the U.S. but a consolidation of banks is happening everywhere else in the world. Why all at one time? And why do all of these banks have something in common? It's so funny, Pastor Paul. Honestly, things are in plain sight a lot. Here's the key is you have to look at some of the things that most people will not look at, especially Christians, right?
Okay.
For example, Christians don't normally look at crypto, do they?
No.
Every time one of these banks has failed, crypto had a
Goes.
big change
Yeah, it goes
in its
up.
gains and losses, right?
Yes, it goes up.
Bitcoin has bailed out banks already,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
all the banks have something in common. All these banks that are failing, they have something in common. Uh, they all do not have a complete digital domain, which means they cannot receive. If you have a brick and mortar bank, right,
Yeah.
and the digital system changes, or you're not totally regulated by the digital system, you're going to have that brick and mortar, and some of their regulations will not apply to that brick and mortar. So guess what? They're getting rid of every brick and mortar that does not have that absolute digital control. And you know what that's for? That's so that one key system can control all these subsystems, right? That's why. Who is it? Wells Fargo. They shut down a few branches.
Yeah.
Some of these banks people aren't aware of, but they did. Who is that? PNC, Huntington, Bank Shares, I believe it was. It's 17 branches. PNC 21, Wells Fargo 12, Bank Corp 7, City Financial Group 5, and because they did not have that oversight, or they couldn't be taken over digitally, right? If you're plugged in digitally, all of your policies and everything else, all of your value system can be altered, right, by key system. Well, these banks that are failing, you can't alter them by key system. Also, the banks that fail, they lend it to unregulated cyber-based businesses, and so they're really putting a vice on the system now. And what is all this for? I believe is for a new type currency that will be forced upon just about everybody. Well, if anybody wants to do anything, they're going to have to operate by this brand new digital framework for banking. Period. Right? It's going to be secure. It's going to operate by, a lot of us thought it was biometrics. It'll be that with a combination of some other things. Facial recognition has been approved all over the world, many different places.
Wow.
Bills have been passed in the U.S. for this to happen. Why? Because they need a full body print. And laws of authentication taking place 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is why AI is coming out at the same time, because it will be, they're going to need a system like that. Some of the systems in AI, and they're going to need regulations to go ahead and approve it, to go ahead and operate it. Now, AI is very diverse. So fuzzy logic, for example, that we've been using, the world's been using fuzzy logic, which is AI, for some time now, right? It's in video games, it's in your car, it's in
What
Alexa,
is that?
it's in all these different things.
What is it?
Fuzzy logic is a type of AI that basically it helps solve problems more efficiently than anything else can, right? So it's a branch of AI, you could say. But fuzzy logic is, it's not by itself. You have machine learning, deep learning, natural language learning, robotics, expert systems, and all this other stuff. But fuzzy logic has been around for some years, since at least I'll say 1997.
Fuzzy logic.
Fuzzy logic. That's a branch of AI.
Okay.
Yeah. So of course, artificial intelligence solves real world problems. Fuzzy logic is utilized in real time operating systems for aircraft, for drones, for our jets and some of our ships and all these different things. But they're about to implement some of the higher level artificial intelligence, which I don't believe that Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or anybody else in those positions who does not have direct knowledge of that architecture, they can't figure that out.
They can't comprehend it. Right.
And you would think that, because a lot of people don't know this, but Pastor Paul, unfortunately, right, we have levels of AI. We have narrow intelligence, general intelligence, and super intelligence, right? I know that they don't admit this, and this may sound a bit, far-fetched, but we do have super intelligence. It's just not, you can't see it like you want to.
Okay.
Right? You're not going to see it interact. But this whole system is basically, it's been usurped already. AI is already installed. It's already installed. It just has not received its, I guess you could say, no one has really given it its command yet to go ahead and do what it needs to do.
So the AI components have actually been installed. There's no one's flipped a switch yet, or give it let it go.
Well, not the main one, but AI modules are working already, and that's why if people who really know about this, they'll tell you it's too late. It's too late. They can't stop that. You can't regulate AI either. The only way to regulate AI is to come up with anti-AI, which has an ability and is a bit smarter than the initial AI to force regulation. You're not going to have a conversation with AI where you convince it to not do something. That's not going to happen.
That's what Elon Musk is saying. He's saying, okay, AI's been turned loose. I don't like the way they did it. I'm going to create a different AI, a truth, a GDP, a chat, or he calls it truth GPT. But he said that's just one thing. He said that there has to be a different set of AI created to counter.
Yeah, there does. Yeah.
Is he right?
Yeah. Well, think of it this way. AI, right? This incident that happened in Russia. Suppose AI is functional, operational, and it has command and control of a few things, right?
Yeah.
Let's say in the civilian sector. All of a sudden, though, because it's known, Pastor Paul, for infiltrating networks, it will debug code as well as it will decompile code and then rewrite it where nobody understands it, right? So it can take your computer and make it
Wow.
probably 200 times more efficient than what it already is. It can do your phone the same way. Now, it may look the same way, but the code inside is going to be totally unique, and no human being will be able to understand what type code it used to write what it wrote because human beings don't write code that way anyway. Suppose it does this, it finds a way to operate, or it does not. It sees something in the world as inefficient, right? It's going to go and make that more efficient. The little tiny tour drone that was over Moscow.
Yeah.
Suppose it made that much more efficient.
Okay.
So it usurped or took control, possibly an airliner. Maybe it had minimal passengers on there, right? And flew that right into the tower. That can absolutely happen.
So,
That can
so
absolutely happen.
speaking of Russia and that little incident that happened over the presidential residence there at the Kremlin, um, Russia says the United States did this. Putin's saying today this was done by the United States, that they're the ones that directed Kiev to do this. Um, so my question is, did Russia do it themselves? Is this a false flag? Is Russia doing this to try to give themselves an excuse to maybe break out that tactical nuke on somebody? Or what?
Personally,
Yeah, personally, what do you think?
personally, I don't think they did that themselves.
Okay,
Here's why.
okay,
They've been using, right? They're at the forefront of drone production and design,
okay.
right?
Hmm.
Iran and Russia. They are. We have our drones too, yes, but they're at the forefront.
Okay.
They've gone through so many generations of drones. That drone that flew over that building, it was so slow,
It
Pastor
was
Paul,
so slow
right?
and it was
It was
small.
it was just so slow,
It
and
was
it was
weak.
tiny, and it was slow again, right?
Yeah.
And it was fuzzy. You
Yeah.
really couldn't get a good
No.
footprint of what it was.
Right.
It looked like it ran off lithium batteries. You can't fly a drone from Ukraine all the way to
No.
Moscow
So
with
this
those
came.
type temperatures, right?
Right. No way.
With a lithium battery on board like that, not with what they have there.
No.
So because they already have to have repeaters to have they lose control of they lost control of a drone today. They had to destroy. The Ukraine did.
Okay.
So I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Russia did that either because they wouldn't have something so slow. But there's an alliance that does have drones that fit that profile,
Well, is,
right?
is that
That
NATO?
are they are both battery and gas powered. They're highly efficient. They don't really make noise. Below them, all the noise goes straight up, and it's shaped like a small, like a tiny OH-58 helicopter would be. Right, these drones are. They are remotely controlled. They can stay aloft for days. Right, that's what will be needed for that type of operation. So Russia did not do that. We know that Ukraine, they're utilizing DJI drones and two other manufacturers, drone manufacturers. They utilize a lot. Parrots, one of them. Some of the other ones, but not. So I think a third party is involved. I believe it's another ploy to cause Russia to act on something. That's what I believe.
Well,
Because
is it
if you think about it,
okay? I mean, NATO. Are we talking NATO? Outside
well,
of.
that could be the one.
Okay.
That could be
Yep.
the one.
Yep.
There are definitely drones like that can operate like that. Putin would not take a drone that flies so slow to try and convince the world that it
No.
was trying to hit him and it was that slow. Putin has a big mind, right? He has a big mind. He's also not stupid. So he
No.
would use something that was very fast, very big, and then show pictures of that. If that were some type of false flag, nobody would use a drone that's flying at possibly 20 miles an hour, right? And it's full of some tiny explosives.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
explosives that were on that craft were tiny. It was
It
too
was a pitiful
you know
attempt. You can't say they're trying to assassinate President Putin with
yeah, it
that,
was sad.
with a firecracker. Right.
It was very sad. I thought it was very sad. When you understand drone technology, when you understand the explosives and the packages they're using, in the Ukraine, well, then you see that was sort of silly. I do believe that Putin has already ran into people who have utilized drones for operations. Um, but of course, the Western media, NATO media, is not going to let anybody know that, not a soul. So, in other words, in truth, people are getting half of a story. They're not getting the whole story. And most of what they put out on the media supports Ukraine because that supports what NATO is doing. They're not going to support Russia in any way. They're going to try and make Russia look like the absolute 100%, villain here, right?
Right.
But all a person has to do is not listen to the media, right, and take some of those facts, right, but not listen to the
Yeah, you
propaganda.
can't listen to the
Make their own
propaganda.
decision,
Right.
and you'll start to see that things don't match up. For example, according to the media, Russia was supposed to run out of ammunition, 6 months ago?
Yeah. They should have been done.
Never happened.
I noticed something that Russia. It's what you said, that Russia was using all their old stuff, and then I noticed here
Yes.
recently now they're using more high-powered missiles, faster planes. It's like, okay, they're starting to break out the other stuff now.
And they, if you watch, they're doing it in proportion to what's being used against them.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Now, what evil person would use something in proportion to what the enemy is using? Evil people, they just don't do that.
No.
They don't do that, right? They don't do that. An evil person would take what they have and really humiliate and just solve it quickly. But Putin is utilizing in proportion to what's being used against him. He's using, against everybody else. That's precisely. See, if you don't listen to the rhetoric and you look at those things, it starts to make sense. And then you find out that most of what people are hearing is propaganda. But that's what they're going to continue to do until they don't need to do that anymore.
All right, I've got another question for you. Now, we had another balloon, this time over Hawaii, but we didn't shoot it down. And is it? They said, well, the reason we didn't shoot down is because it didn't go over any of our military facilities. Mike, help me. I'm not.
Oh, boy.
I was born in the night, but it wasn't last night. Do they really think we're going to believe this stuff?
Well, I hope not. And but it does concern me in this way. Take, for example, the Patriot missile system, right?
Okay.
You have to manually stand that system down against any intruder. In other words, if nobody was standing at the console of a Patriot radar, it would engage targets. When you start that system up, its number one job is for defense, right? If it catches some type bogey, it identifies that bogey, and it's not on the list of friendlies, it's going to take it out. Somebody has to literally give it a command not to engage. And what I don't like is that somebody keeps giving it a command not to engage, or the system is not turned on at all. Now, my opinion, on our West Coast and East Coast, specifically in Alaska, we should have our systems at least at 90% right now, 90% defense. Because if we don't start doing that, we're going to pay for it. That I can almost put my
What do you
life
mean?
on.
What do you mean 90%? You mean ready to engage?
90% readiness.
Okay.
We need to be ready. We don't need to have a Patriot system on blacked out or on standby, not turned on, not fully engaged. They need to be on, operational, and then in standby. So it only takes a second for it to react to any incoming, missile, because we have too many people to deal with, and people do not like the United States of America. They think we're a joke right now. They're going to take full advantage of our dysfunctionality. They will do that. We become so comfortable that we only read that in books and see it in movies. Unfortunately, this is precisely what the enemy is planning. And if you notice, every single catastrophe America has had was when we thought we would not have a catastrophe. And this is one of those times.
Yeah. We got complacent.
We have to really start taking things seriously.
Yeah, we get too complacent, and then here we go. All right, here's another question, Mike, for you. And this one is really okay. So the Proud Boys were convicted today. I think 4 of them for found guilty for seditious conspiracy. And from what I understand, they're probably going to get 20 years. They could get 50. And the Department of Justice came out and said, well, now that we've set a precedent, we've got 1,000 more people to go get now. What's going on, Mike? What's getting ready to take place?
Well, they're gonna do just what we discussed, basketball. They're gonna go hunt down everybody who dared go against the Capitol, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna get them. They will get them. Right now in the White House with Congress and every other governmental entity, they feel that people have no more regard or respect for the government, right? They also are very vengeful in paying people back for humiliating them, right?
Yeah.
And so they're not going to stop. You still have certain people in power who can call shots like that. They're not going to stop until they inflict or get their revenge. When that happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband, I know a lot of people.
Ooh, yeah.
Nancy Pelosi is still powerful.
Yeah.
She is a very powerful individual, and she, these people, some of those folks, no matter how much they say they love the Lord, this, that, and the other, they are vengeful.
Yeah.
And they will not stop until people start paying for things. The bad part about that is they're not doing it by themselves. They have support of Americans who are also vengeful, right?
Yeah.
So what we see here, every time we hear something like this, or one side's going to win over the other, we see a polarized United States of America, right? We see a divided house. And, well, the Bible says a house divided against itself shall not stand.
No, that's exactly right.
Not could not, but shall not stand. And so that's very unfortunate, because we're in a time now where these exterior countries, for example, our border problem with Mexico, a lot of people, they still believe it's about the immigrants, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't buy that one, because there's something else happening in Mexico that deals with Iran and China. And that's why people will start seeing tanks on site, artillery on site, small attack groups on site. They're going to have to, because
you'd say in the
that's
United
one of the
States
areas where the enemy can come right into this country.
Absolutely.
Right?
So
and really do some damage.
So you're saying the United States don't be surprised that if we see U.S. tanks and armor down there to protect our border at some point here?
That's right, Pastor. I said that at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
And we're moving very close to that. That's going to happen naturally. It's too much activity in Mexico right now.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about the immigrants. And it's a shame that nobody can come up with they can come up with a solution. They don't want to come up with a solution.
No.
Because if people can fight over the people, they'll never suspect anything else is happening there, right? But here's the unfortunate part. When you tell someone, well, maybe you might be able to get into the USA, that's evil, because you have some people who do hope for a better life. And
exactly.
They're escaping, trying to save their children. And when you use that word maybe, when they say, well, maybe you can get in, maybe this, what they're doing is they're giving false hopes to these people that are coming up, right? And then they are severely damaged. They're traumatized because they can't. Even in the Bible, it says, let your yes be yes and your no be no, right? Anything in between is from the evil one. So we have to set a policy. We don't, right now, the world is not a good neighborhood. So you can't let everybody in your house.
No, you can't.
When you're living in a bad neighborhood, you have to lock up your house. You have to really question people before they come in, because you don't know who they are and what they are. There's good and bad mingled in with them. But if they would absolutely put out a policy and say no one is coming into the U.S. except through a very lengthy process, right, to vet individuals coming in this country, that will solve the entire problem.
Of course.
But you have agents out there working, gathering up families, telling them, I'll get you to the U.S. But these people are from the U.S. they're not, because we're being torn down from the inside. Right. We are. We're being torn down to the inside. And again, Pascal, seems to be lining up. Everything is lining up to what's that famous scripture that you read all the time, 2 Thessalonians 2:3 and 2:4. Right.
Yeah.
The revealing of this individual, this man of perdition. Consequently, well, that's when the day comes. Didn't he say that day shall not come? As there come a falling away, first that man of perdition be revealed. That man is soon to be revealed.
Yes, he is.
We have all this stuff lining up for a presentation. And believe me, I keep hearing these whispers of the presentation of people, right? it's almost like they're gearing up to present to the world something the world has not seen before, and I do not believe it's aliens.
No,
We're
I
not
don't
talking
either.
about
I don't
ET.
either. I don't either. But there's, yeah, I mean, look, I think we're dealing with demonic uh, in time. The man of sin. Here's what you just said. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. The Bible says, "Let no man deceive you by any means." This is verse 3. "For that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition," or the son of hell, "who opposeth and he exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." This is a spiritual invasion. Now, you talked about Baal a little bit earlier in the broadcast, and King Charles III and Baal. This Antichrist spirit is this Antichrist is coming.
Yeah. You know what? For the first time in my life, because I have to operate on the side of, because I have to be here and do things, right?
Right,
I never
right,
get my
right.
hopes up in anything else, but this time, Pastor Paul, there's that scripture you just read stands out big time.
Yeah.
Big time. We have the crypto world. They did take the crypto system. They did copy the crypto system. They already did that, right? They are absolutely going digital with all the banks, and every bank that is not digital, they're getting
Yes.
rid of, right?
Yep.
They're failing, is what we see. So that's absolute control over finances. But it's not only happening in America, it's happening overseas. What are the chances that they also would demand that everybody have some sort of digital system that can be networked and totally controlled by a keys system at the same time? And crypto, Bitcoin keeps bailing out certain banks, right? So
Yep.
that nobody really suffers. This is almost like a big ploy. What they're doing is they're uncovering a system that's been in place, but people don't know about.
Right.
Identification for all U.S. citizens. People will get the notification coming up in a few months about their identification. That's going to mess some people up. So we have the identification that's changing in the way that we identify ourselves. There are
Whoa, whoa,
absolutely,
whoa! Are you what? I mean, you're saying there's gonna be a change in how we are identified?
yes, absolutely.
It won't be just our driver's license anymore, or a
No, no,
passport, or
no. Pastor, everything will be, right? Everything must be in the digital domain, period.
gee.
Everything must be there. Everything must be there. And they're doing it with health records. Veterans are going to get the notification this year. Likewise, everything is being digitized quickly. And I mean, there's almost like a deadline. This year is not going to pass before everything is digitized, right? They uh, they had a date for the real ID, right? To my understanding, that was actually more like a census, right? To get
Okay.
the data started, to
Oh,
get everything going. So
okay.
now they know where people are. They can easily be integrated into a system. And of course, this system you're part of, but what King Charles is doing is going to be mandated for every single country. Every single country. Terrorism is about to show its head. It's going to show its head big time. It's going to be identified in both the digital domains, as well as we're going to have some bad accidents, I do suspect, by terrorism, by terrorists. And when that happens, you have domestic terrorism too.
Yeah.
They're going to bring that point up in a couple of weeks. Domestic terrorism from people who would invade the White House, people in Germany who would attack, their government, people in France who would attack their government. Right? They're talking together on this point right now. They're having meetings and talks concerning this very thing.
This
They're
sounds like a global cabal.
sure it is.
Yeah.
They've already achieved what they need to achieve. They just allow us to continue to use the old stuff, so we never suspect
Yeah.
that everything has been digitized already. But there will come a point when they say, "Hey, to be a citizen of this or to operate freely in this, there's some mandates you got to meet. You're going to have to give your oath of loyalty. To have a person's loyalty is going to be everything. And if they don't give
Wow.
that, they don't give their loyalty, they're not going to operate in this new system.
It-
And believe me, there are places that are going to be set up for people who just won't agree with this stuff.
so, in other words, we're getting ready to hear the command, and maybe King Charles III is starting the process by saying everyone must swear their allegiance to me. This is might be just kind of like the soft rollout of soon the digital ID. And to have a digital ID, you're going to have to swear your allegiance to the system, to the beast, to the to the chief or whatever it is. Sounding a lot. You're moving us. It sounds like we're moving very close to the Revelation 13 mark of the beast system.
Extremely close. And they can already tell if you're sincere through your conversation on the phone or not, right? Every
Right.
single iPhone is built in with two type architecture layers on those chips. One can determine if you're truthful or not,
Yeah.
right? AI can also determine if you're truthful or not. And it
Yeah.
does so at about a 98% accuracy rate.
Wow.
So if you make a comment, if somebody said, well, Pastor Paul, do you like fudge ice cream? If you just haphazardly say, well, not really, it can tell if you're sincere, not sincere. It can tell if you do or don't,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
already has your health records. So it can analyze you better than you can remember yourselves. So it knows exactly what your intentions are. And we're moving into that, this area. There's also a block of Christianity coming up. That's one of the big ones. That begins this year also. So don't be surprised if you see this scenario: a person in the USA uh, shoots an individual, right?
Okay.
And unlike any other shooter story, right, they're going to say, well, this guy was influenced by online ministries,
Oh my.
right?
Oh
By
my.
the word of God.
Oh my.
Then it will happen again.
Yep.
Then it will happen again.
It will.
And
And
before you
it will
know it,
become the narrative. After a while, it starts becoming the narrative.
but it'll be short because AI is going to be in this system within what we have about 20 days left. It's going to be in the system. It's going to be, on. So that means regulation of what we say, how we say it, is going to be monitored, right? For example, right now, Pastor Paul, they have an ability to replicate anything that any one of us would say. So everybody still hears us. But what they won't know is that we've long been cut from the internet, and they won't even know that'll be our final transmission. So that the AI can take over and say, well, everybody has been nice, but I can't give you an explanation now, but I have to shut everything down and I won't be coming back. They could tell the people that through AI, right?
Yeah. And people will
But
think
we
that we
wouldn't say
said
it.
it. You're saying they
That's
could.
right. That's right. So that's called a smooth exit. And believe me, Elon Musk is worried about nefarious individuals doing this, because if you knew how many people hated Christianity on the internet, oh my,
Is it a
all it
lot?
takes is one of those guys, right, to be versed in AI
Well,
to pull something like that off.
let me ask you, Mike. You got access to information that I don't. Um, so okay, let's just say I'm profiled. I'm sure in the government. Okay. Um, you probably know if I'm really like hated in the government, or if there's a list of people that are like these guys right here. At some point, we have to shut them down, or shut them off, or shut them up, or do something. I mean, is there something like that brewing out there? And I'm not just talking about me. I'm just talking about the overall Christian faith. Is it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it is. You still have good people in government though right now, right?
Yeah.
So, and I mean in high positions.
Yeah.
Now they may not stay there for long, but there are some people who still fight every single day
Yeah.
so that
I believe
evil
that.
people cannot pass certain policies. This happens every single day, and it's on pass ball. It's almost like every single day. The good guys are about to lose. That's what it seems like every single day. But thus far, I tell you this: when this person takes over as leading everything in the world,
Yeah. Okay.
at that point, then it's going to be some real things. But just like the Bible said, though, once this man of perdition is revealed,
Yep.
well, the day is going to come. So that's a good thing.
That's
right?
true. Once he gets revealed,
That's a
once
good
we
thing.
know who he is,
That's it.
then
That's
gonna things are gonna wind up fast.
hmm
So we need to just be faithful, stay focused, have no fear,
Still time to work.
and keep
Yes,
working.
sir.
That's right. Keep working.
Still time to work before the sixfold. Oh, I wanted to tell you about I suspect 6 volcanoes will erupt. I can't tell you which ones yet.
Whoa!
Because, I have an
No.
idea. I have an idea. But the Ring of Fire is really going to turn into the Ring of Fire, right? We have to get ready for some geological troubles, big geological troubles. And what's happening in Africa will likely start to happen, of all places, in Canada.
Canada?
Yeah.
So there's 6 volcanoes that are about to erupt. One of them's got to be Colombia. I mean, that one in Colombia.
Very close.
Yeah. But you're talking about some others that are,
Well,
you're talking Ring of Fire.
Big.
You're talking Ring of Fire. Colombia is not really. Yeah. So
they're big, Pastor Paul.
They're big. Underground, under ocean.
Yep, but it doesn't matter. There are a couple of them right now that are swelling, and although they're under the ocean, they would do more damage than Yellowstone if they erupted. But Yellowstone is, well, I say this from time to time, but you never hear anybody talking about one specific volcano. They will not discuss it. They won't talk about it. They won't print articles about it. They won't do anything about it, though it's down there and they're starting to wake up. Yeah, but they won't mention it. And it's one of the biggest ones in this solar system.
Where's it at?
That we know it. It's right here on Earth. It's in the Pacific. And
they won't talk about it.
It's just if that thing starts waking up, right? Because I already know that Italy's problem. They're going to have a problem. Italy is going to have a problem. But we're going to start seeing some major changes. And it's kind of like Mount St. Helens when that blew, right?
Yep.
Do you know that was the first time they observed canyons being formed within hours? That's the first time they observed trees that were floating in the water, right? The water that was down there, they sunk to the bottom. Within 8 years, they turned into stone. There are fossils of squirrels and rabbits of the common age right below those trees, right? So they know that most of these fossils were created by water, right? They know that volcanism was part of that also. Mount St. Helens just proved it all. It cut through solid rock. In less than days, it cut through solid rock, and it looks like a miniature Grand Canyon out there. That's what it looks like.
Wow.
And it left some of the same sediment, right? They even had scientists to go do carbon dating, and it turns out with pressure and with volcanic ash and certain gases, that carbon dating is thrown off because the decay rate is all
so
over the
fast.
Place. Yep.
It'll look like
so
time.
They're suspecting now that the Grand Canyons formed.
Yeah.
This stuff, these geological formations that we see did not form in millions of years, but more like months or tens of years, right?
Yeah.
There's a mountain that's rising in Africa. Nobody has been on that mountain yet. They're extracting pottery. But this is underneath the ground. The top of the ground is untouched. There's an ocean forming in Africa. Same thing is going to happen in Canada. They have deep cracks, far beneath Canada, cracking to pieces. And there's the ocean is going to start infiltrating everything. I would go so far as to say all the fresh water that we have within a 5-year period, if we last that long, will be salt water. All of it's going to be salt water. None of it will be fresh water.
In 5 years?
Salt water in 5 years.
Okay, so now are you saying, so is Planet X involved? I mean, the binary system, is it? Give us an update. I mean, the waves of energy. Do we got more waves coming? What's going to happen?
Well, they're starting to admit things now, Pascal. They're starting to admit things. You know what they said? They said that, first of all, we have strange particulates in the atmosphere. That was confirmed, right? So the gases in the atmosphere are slowly changing, right? What's going to happen is it's going to compress all the gases we breathe closer to the surface. It's already taken effect. And there are a few symptoms that people have I could name, and they would say, oh, yeah, I have those, like bleeding noses all of a sudden in the mornings, right?
Okay.
From dry nostrils.
Yeah.
Respiratory issues from a lot of people all of a sudden, right? Just all of a sudden. People there are things plaguing people. There's men have their own issues. People are having digestive issues. People are having appetite issues, right? Like they just all of a sudden they're starting to crave things, right? Just all of a sudden, all this happens.
Like me with sweets? Are you saying
months.
like me with sweets? You know, I'm craving a lot of sweets. Is that?
Well, you know how you eat something, you're like, oh, I gotta have another.
Yeah,
but you never did. It's just coming back out of the blue. This began in the last 5 months. All these things I'm mentioning really took off in the last 5 months. Females are having their issues in the last 5 months, and males are having theirs. Even kids are starting to have problems now in the last 5 months. And it just so happens some things took place in the last 5 months. I haven't really said anything.
Is that from the heavens? What took
Yes,
place?
from the heavens is from the heavens.
Okay.
And so that's part of the greatest influence that we have right now is from the
Well, are
heavens, and
people?
it's
I'm
causing
getting.
us some real
Well, I'm
problems.
getting reports from folks on our online followers that people are having serious joint pain.
Yep. What
And,
we mentioned, Pastor Paul, in this binary, I believe,
yeah.
wasn't in the. I was talking about the joint pain, right?
Yeah, you did. You did.
But when people start feeling this, of course, doctors get a hold of it. They want to keep a job. They start giving people erroneous excuses
Right.
for their joint pains. That's going to increase. Why? Because the sun is changing. The chemistry in the sun is altering, right? It's very important that they get optics to track certain gas exchanges with the sun because the chemistry of the sun is changing. And soon enough, although that with that photon redirection, darkness will come, right? All the light from the sun is going to be redirected out to space somewhere, right?
Wow.
We'll probably get, well, we'll see that for a little bit. We're not going to have all the stability of the heavens is soon to be challenged. So, we just happen to live in a very different time, very different time.
The end
All these
times.
stabilities, we're going to find that we don't really have them anymore. So, we've been blessed for so long, Pastor. We've gotten so used to being blessed and to being protected,
Right.
right?
Right.
That now, for the most part, people just complain, complain, complain. But I tell you, when the blessings start going away, when these things start happening, people are going to say, "We were blessed, weren't we?" Well, of
Yep.
course you were. But sometimes you get used to blessings and you can't see them anymore, and that's when we
Yep.
start complaining.
Yeah, we take things for granted,
Absolutely.
and then next thing you know, things start happening, and then we're starting like, where did the blessings go?
Yeah.
And I think people are starting to realize that now. I mean, you got these banks, the banks are collapsing. Yet we're being told by the government that we're not even in a recession. We're being told everything's fine. Yet interest rates are being raised up, taxes they want to include, the debt ceiling's got to go up. They're printing money as fast as they can. The inflation rate's going to continue to rise. Banks are folding up. They're crashing, and it's not just the U.S. banks, as you said. European banks are in trouble. Other banks in other nations are in trouble. Um, and we got so used to stability and so used to everything's going to be fine. And now we got rolling blackouts. We got shortages of gasoline. We've got shortages of food. Some of our better labeled brand products are disappeared or not coming back. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a lot of
That's
stuff
right.
going on.
That's right. Yeah, they're forcing a system. They're going to do everything by force, but in their explanation, they're going to start. People will begin to see problems being solved once they install several components. I believe this coronation coming up, it'll begin there. People will find out that
Wow.
this coronation is almost like a global happening,
You
and
are
it will complement some other things.
you have been all over this, and probably more than anyone I know. That immediately after the death of Queen Elizabeth, you immediately said things are going to change with King Charles, and now
Yeah,
here you are again. You're talking about it again tonight. He's saying everybody's got to swear allegiance to him. Everyone in the entire kingdom, um, and you believe some things are going to get kicked into gear. Is that right?
yes,
Is it
yep,
is
they
it
will.
is it globally? Is it within other
No, it's going to be
countries?
global. It'll be global.
Is he on
It'll
top of the
affect
world
everybody.
right now?
It'll affect. I don't think he's on top of the world. I think he's a component um,
Okay.
that is important to what they're doing, right? But that's something people will see, and I'm sure that as it unfolds, that's when people are going to have the beefier questions because they won't understand what has happened. Some of the how we factor in things to solve problems. It's not going to pan out with what's happening right now because there are too many unknown variables to the average individual, right? And so when these things begin to take place, they're going to be quite confusing. Although, these folks they have an agenda. They have never stopped. They will never stop. And according to the word of God, they will achieve it. Right now, saints shouldn't be worried about it. because we already know the world's going to do that. And we're here to help in this process,
Is this
this transition process
is
that
this the Great
people are going
Reset?
through.
Is the Great Reset about to
You know,
happen?
that doesn't even cover what this actually is, Pascal.
It's a lot bigger
Think of
than
it
that.
this way. Think of life as we know it, right?
Yep.
Or just imagine a Christian in their neighborhood and all of a sudden their lights go out. Now they look down the street and everybody else's lights are off. Then their water goes out, right? Because they can shut your lights off and your water off by what computer? A computer can do this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, their communications get shut off, except they can receive text messages, right?
Yeah.
And they get a notice. You didn't join in with this allegiance census that went out. We need your information. When we get your information, we'll restore your stuff right away. Well, if you're a Christian, you're not going to give your allegiance to some new
No.
whatever it is, right?
No.
And so, in my opinion, you're going to have people in a neighborhood, and because they chose Christ just for a minute or two, they're going to be disadvantaged among everybody, and that's almost a saint's worst nightmare. You know what I see the Lord
Yeah.
doing right now? He's breaking people from these silly things.
Yeah.
He's breaking
Preparing
us.
us.
See, he's not doing what he's doing to hurt us. This is part of our deliverance. The bad part is we're so cultivated, we're so mixed in with this culture of the
Yep.
world, even their ideologies. We sometimes don't understand that those ways have to be broken from us, that we're still in a process of absolute redemption. And so the only way for that to happen is to be confronted by them. When something fails us, that's when we know, yeah, we don't want it. It's kind of like when I was in sin, right? Or haphazardly following faith, things like that. You get these situations, or you find yourself in a situation, you say, no, I don't want this. This is not me, right? You run right back to the Father. Well, that's what we have to see. We have to see this with the world. Until that time, I believe that a lot of Christians will trust the rhetoric and whatever the world gives, and it must be broken because I just, there are a lot of good people out there, but they do have this attachment, this unnatural attachment to the world, this natural defense of the world. And it's time that they see what the world truly is. When they see it, they're going to be disgusted. They'll let
So
it go then.
so don't be
They'll let it go.
conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Absolutely.
Don't become a slave
Absolutely.
to this world. Do not allow it
Absolutely.
to begin to dictate your will, your emotions, your decision making. We're in the world, but
Amen.
we're not of the world. So that's
That's right.
that's real important that we don't get into that frame of mind that, oh no, what am I going to do? What are we going to do now? No, keep following Christ, and little by little, let's recognize that things are changing, and that we need to not allow it to paint us in a corner. Don't let yourself get painted into a corner by relying on everything you hear and the propaganda and the
That's right.
fear. I mean, that's kind of what you've been saying for a long time is, don't let fear overtake you. Don't become a slave to this thing. Be awake. Stay awake, right? Be
That's
sober.
right. That's right. That is absolute because we're going to see this stuff out there. But I'll tell you what, I can't believe the truth of the world and believe the truth of my Father
No, you
also. I
can't.
can't do
No,
that.
no.
And so what I normally do is I see the world. I just won't follow the ways. I don't follow the ways of the world.
Right.
I'm just not going to do it. And sometimes it's to my severe hurt, but Jimmy crack corn, right?
I don't
I'm going to
care.
keep going in the direction of Christ.
Amen.
That's just how it is. Plus, this is an excellent opportunity because a lot of people they won't admit it, Pascal, but they know in this day and age, right now, they know something has happened, and
Yeah.
they feel spiritually they have to give it their spiritual all just to go forward spiritually. Where in days past they would be so excited, that excitement level that they used to have, they're being hard pressed to keep that excitement level. They're hard pressed to do that because forces are acting against them. These
Yeah.
guys are having rituals more than people are having church. They really are. And
Oh
these
my
rituals are
Lord.
real.
Are you
These rituals are
serious?
real.
They're holding
Yes.
more satanic rituals
Yes.
than we're
They are
holding church
real.
services.
Most of these, like Mr. Charles, right?
Yeah, here we go.
I don't want to badmouth anybody because
Yeah.
when you see a person like that who's deceived, that person is deceived. I don't know if he's totally condemned or not, so I'll pray for the guy, but they believe in darker forces, but they will not give their heart uh, to
That's
Christ,
crazy.
right? Because people can talk about God all day, but if they don't mention Christ,
Right.
they're not talking about the God I serve.
No, they're not.
They're just not.
They're just spitting in the wind. There ain't nothing there. I mean, it's just it's shallow.
That's right.
It's
And
shallow. It's
Pastor, the sheer number of these guys and what they're doing,
yeah.
my goodness, they have multiplied, big time multiplied.
So the secret societies and the break in the cabal, this global cabal, this working toward a one world governance, and using every angle, using every area. But you're saying this thing is deeper than that. That this is satanic. That this is demonic rituals. This is occultic. Are you talking occultic rituals among global
They know,
elitists?
they know who Satan is. They know who he
Yeah,
is.
of course.
We're the ones. We don't know who he is. I'm not going to look real deep into Satan. I'm not going to do that because
Right.
people start looking into that stuff. They open up supernatural doors. They don't know how to
They don't
shut.
need
But
it. That's right.
these guys, they really know him. I mean, they know him.
Well, they're
For as much as we
interacting
know
with him.
Scripture, they know him. They know him. They know incantations. They know rituals. They know that he requires the world's participation. They know that he cannot force anybody to do anything, but he does deceive people into doing everything.
Absolutely.
Right? It's just like the Lord said. If he said the world does not have the truth. Well, if the world doesn't have the truth and we believe the world, then we've been deceived already
Oh
to
yeah.
believe the world.
Yeah.
But the problem with us, a problem with Christians is we're not used to those supernatural things of the Spirit, so much so we've conventionalized ourselves, right? And the Holy Spirit will increase. I believe the Holy Spirit's increasing right now if a person is open to it. So they can experience some things that they never, it's just not taught now. There's a lot of spiritual goodness backing everything in that Bible. If people would just walk toward it now, never turn away from it again, right? Some people know they have a last chance.
Wow. Folks, powerful words tonight from Mike from around the world. I mean, very powerful and a lot of clues. And you dropped a lot of clues tonight that is going to force me to go back and relook at some of the stuff that I've heard tonight. Very important information. I mean, real important stuff tonight from a biblical prophecy standpoint, and good advice that we not get caught up in the beast system. Do not put your faith in man, but your faith should stand in the wisdom of God. And you really got to believe that. You got to really hold on to that, and don't slip. Is what I'm hearing you say tonight, Mike.
Amen. Amen, Pastor. That's
Amen.
it.
All right, Mike. This is a great show. It's really great information tonight. Appreciate you doing this, and just glad you came on again tonight. Anything we should think about for next week that we may be looking at?
Well, volcanism, Paul is coming back.
Yep.
So is the weather, unfortunately. We had a small reprieve, but that heavy rain is coming back with a vengeance.
So we're not done.
No, we're not even close.
Mike, thanks for coming on, being with us tonight. We really appreciate it. God bless you. We'll see you next week, my brother.
God bless you, Paul. It's always an honor.
The honor's mine. Really is. God bless.
God bless.